Hi, myself Alfonso Jojen. I've been practicing as an environmental lawyer for a couple of years, and today we will be discussing a module on access and benefit sharing. So this module we will be learning the concept of access and benefit sharing, and also we will be discussing the international legal framework around the concept and also the national concept, and we will be looking at certain case studies. As an introduction, let's think about a book called Horticus Malabaricus. So this is a compilation of all the plants that especially in southern India, that are very relevant, and also traditional knowledge associated with those plants. This happened when a foreigner came to southern India and recorded and documented all the plants and its features, and also the knowledge especially relating to the medicinal uses of the plant relating to it. So this was the scenario once happened, but what happened is we have adopted a convention called Convention on Biological Diversity, which kind of stipulates that or reaffirms the concept of sovereign rights of states over their biological resources, and it stipulates that access to biological resources will be determined by the nations and in accordance with the national law. So what happened with that particular convention is that now if anyone wants, especially a foreigner, wants to collect a plant or an animal or any biological resources, which is also defined in Convention on Biological Diversity, if they want to come and collect that particular biological resources, then they have to comply with a certain set of regulations. And these regulations are mainly used because there's been a misappropriation of the traditional knowledge and also the traditional knowledge associated with the biological resource, and also using this particular biological resources which has originated in these particular countries and which have been conserved by the state and the communities for centuries. And what happened was a lot of states, especially economically richer state, used to convert this biological resources into commercially viable products and sell it in the market, and won't share the benefits that are from these particular products to the people who have been traditionally conserving these biological resources, or to the people who had traditional knowledge related to these biological resources. So the concept of access and benefit sharing is that when you want to access a biological resource is defined in Convention on Biological Diversity Act and also in Biological Diversity Act, that is India's legislation to the Convention on Biological Diversity. And this has been defined as plants, animals, microorganisms, their genetic resource, and very widely it has been defined. So this particular concept says that when you want to access this biological resource, a biological resource belonging to a particular country, then you need to comply with the legislations around that particular biological resources in that country, and you have to get a lot of permission from them. So this is what, and that the concept of access to biological resources. Now what is benefit sharing? As we have mentioned, the states have been trying to access or collect economically significant biological resources and also convert these biological resources into products which can be sold in the market and sold at a very high price. And this price will be while, for instance, let's take like a medicinally important plant. A lot of communities might have been involved in conservation of this medicinally important plant. And this plant is medicinally important is also a knowledge that a company has acquired from this indigenous community. So when the community actually goes to this indigenous people or community and take this biological resource and also the knowledge associated with this biological resource and process this biological resource and make it into a medicinal form and sell it in the market, what they will do is they will just sell it and reap all the benefits out of it. They will not give back to the community or to the place where they have taken the biological resources and maybe the knowledge associated with it, the share of the benefits that they are actually obtaining from selling this particular product in the market. So, this concept of access and benefit sharing involves sharing of the accessing a biological resource, and also if there is any knowledge associated with that particular biological resource, with accessing that knowledge with the prior informed consent of the parties providing the biological resources, and sharing the benefits with these parties who have been traditionally conserving or who has the customary right over this particular knowledge. So, these are the concepts: the access with prior informed consent and sharing the benefits with mutually agreed terms. So, the concept of access and benefit sharing involves two main elements, that is prior informed consent and mutually agreed terms. So, there will be like in an ideal scenario under this convention, there will be like a state, that is a country, which will be providing a biological resources, and there will be a state which will be receiving this biological resources. And what will the receiving state do with the biological resource? It will utilize this biological resources and put it in the market, or maybe research on it, or have different end uses out of it. So, you will have two parties, that is the country which is providing the biological resources and the country which is receiving the biological resources under the convention. So, this particular concept revolves around the fact that access, when the biological resource is taken, should be governed by the laws and the consent of the state that is providing the biological resources, and if there is any communities that are involved with protecting or conserving this biological resource, or if a knowledge associated with this biological resource is taken from a particular community, then this community should also be involved in giving prior informed consent to the access. So, this is what prior informed consent is. The next is, as we have already explained, mutually agreed terms. So, when you access this biological resource, you will be giving a consent saying that yes, you can take the biological resource, you can also take or like utilize the traditional knowledge or the knowledge that I have with this particular biological resource, and utilize that knowledge and make a completely new maybe like knowledge which can be patentable, or an invention which can be patentable, or a product that can be sold in the market. It is fine with us, but you have to share the benefits out of whatever you have received. So, this concept of access and benefit sharing, a fairly new concept, has been adopted in the Convention on Biological Diversity, and this convention was adopted in 1992. Most of the parties are parties to this convention except United States, which have not ratified this convention. But this especially the main players in this convention is biologically rich countries, which involves India, Brazil and South Africa and lot of countries, and also EU is also a major player. But biological rich countries always say that you have the technology to convert a plant or an animal cell or or a microorganism into something that is valuable, economically valuable in the market and can actually fetch a lot of money. But we don't have the technology. If that is so, then whenever you are accessing our biological resources, you need to take our permission, and you need to take you need to give the shares of whatever you are getting, be it sharing of research results or investing in our country some of your capital and setting up a new project in our country. So this concept we have discussed have been recognized firstly in the Convention on Biological Diversity, and also India has been a major player in this particular convention, and we have adopted the national mechanism for this legislation for this for access and benefit sharing, that is the Biological Diversity Act 2002. But going again to the international scenario, I think we are fairly clear with what is access and benefit sharing, what is a state provider country, who is a provider country, who is a country who is receiving the biological resources. Also, like the concepts like state sovereignty, I think I haven't covered that, but we started off our discussion saying what was the scenario before the Convention on Biological Diversity. You could collect, access biological resources, that is like plants, animals, microorganisms from any part of the world without any restrictions. You can just go in anywhere, collect the resources, you can collect the traditional knowledge associated with it, get it, steal it. You call it piracy sometimes. It's not sometimes, like you call it piracy, biopiracy. So steal it and make a new product out of it. You get all the profits out of the sale of that product, or you go on improving your knowledge and adding up on the knowledge while the knowledge was first received from one particular country or a community. So this is what this concept of access and benefit sharing is.